Let me open up the chat for our 9th roll call live. All right, roll call live. Oh, chats. Live chat. Live chat. Live chat. Live chat. Who's coming to chat? Who's coming to chat? All right. So, this week I am going to smoke my delightful Sweet Tingler. That's the name of the blend. And it is called the Sweet Tingler because on the center stream of your palate, from here through the back and partially on the sides, Tanya! Ring my bell for you, girl. How you doing? What have you been up to this week? Have you done anything fabulous? Oh my gosh. I'm trying to see. Sweet Tingler this week. Girl, let me tell you. I thought I was coming back with a bus, right? The bus looked good though. It sounded good. Went all the way to Minnesota, girl. All the way to Minnesota. Cold as dead bones. Just cold. Okay? Oh, what? No bus? No damn bus. But it's not over yet. And I'm even afraid to say what's happening right now because I can't even believe it myself. But I can't say anything until Tuesday. So I may be on here with a huge announcement on Tuesday. It's crazy. So I do have a bus update, but I got to hold off on the bus update because on our way back, we discovered something else. So all things for a good reason, right? We journeyed all the way to Denver where we laid over one night. And, you know, our daughter lives in Colorado. And so in Denver, we had a blast for one night. And the blast was real short-lived because our asses are old and we just couldn't hang like that. And so we fell asleep. Then we got up at dark 30 to get on the plane to Minnesota, where we stopped in St. Paul. And I don't care. That place is just cold. I don't even care. It's cold. So, you know, we knew it was a little bit of a chance, a little bit of a risk because up north, it's colder. They use more salt on their roads. So we did know that there was a chance it might not fly. But yo, the bus was super, it looked great, you know? And so we took pictures with the bus and, you know, the bus sounded good, but when got underneath, yo, that chassis was just, there's so much rust. We just couldn't commit. So, I mean, it was a great size, 40 feet, everything we were looking for, but just could not pull the trigger on that bus. But we met a fabulous guy on the way to Minnesota on the plane who sat next to me, and some things are just fucking destiny. Okay, most things are. But, you know, when it's out loud and destiny is screaming in your face, it feels like extra. You know what I'm saying? So, yo, this guy and I were having a conversation and now we're doing business. It's crazy how that happens, okay? But my allergies are killing me. So if my eyes do funny things, you guys, some of you know, some of you don't know that I have Tourette's. So I'm always masking my tics, but the allergies, I really can't mask that shit. Irritating my eyes, all the pollen and pollution and shit. I take my Claritin, but still I have issues. So my contacts roll around a little bit. So, yeah. Hello. Let me see what you're saying. Yeah, that's about the bus. Yeah. So I'm going to give you some new updates about the bus. I can't tell my little secret about the bus. Not yet. I'll hold off till Tuesday. Yes. So the Tingler, okay. I will say one more thing about the bus, okay. I'm very picky, and I'm being very picky because it needs to serve the purpose. I'm going to be a prisoner to this bus for 5 fucking years. So it needs to have all of the checklists checked. Understand? So yeah, that's kind of why it's taking a minute. Okay. I didn't think it would take this long, but it's taking a minute. But it's okay. We are very close. You know how you used to play that game when you were little and you were like going around the room and you're looking for something and they say you're cold. And then they say, oh, you're warm, you're warm, you're warm, you're warm. And then they say, you're hot, 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 hot. Yeah, that's what we are right now. So we're hot, hot, hot. We have been searching and searching and searching, but we're hot, 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 hot now. Yes, Lord. That brings me to tonight's beverage. This glass is a little different. It's more of a V vase glass rather than the flute glass that I had last week. And I have a very awesome drink that I hope that you one day try for yourself. And the Tingler is the pairing. Okay, so if you haven't had the sweet Tingler, the reason why it's called the Tingler is because your center palate tingles the entire time you smoke this blend. So and it's sweet. It's on the sweeter side. So we call it the sweet Tingler, which will also bring me to part of what we'll be talking about tonight, which is the difference between mold, plume, foot, efflorescence, and the color of the ash. We may talk about that, right? Since they're kind of one and the same, you know, magnesium, calcium, phosphate, all that good shit, right? So we're going to talk about that. So stay tuned. So the Tingler is sweet, and we'll talk about how, you know, some of the leaves are sweeter based on the soil that they're in, and you know, those fusions of chemicals that come together in the fertilization process and the fermentation process. And so we'll talk about all those things if I ramble fast enough. Okay. Yes. There is a lineup of things here on my table that are going into this drink. Okay. First, creme de menthe. Okay. You take the glass, like said. Okay. And we'll just put a little bit in there like this. Yeah, just like that. Okay. So you just want the first, not even fourth, like sixth of your glass or something to be green in color. Doesn't really matter what brand you use what you like. I'm not supporting anybody here. And Lord knows they ain't not supporting me. So next you want to take a little bit of, well, you could use either. Like I have here Tennessee Fire and I have Fireball. You can use either. I personally prefer, I feel a sneeze coming on. It's the allergies. I'm so sorry. It might still come in the middle of my talking, okay? This is live. I personally prefer Sinfire, okay? But, you know, I'm using what I have. You have Fireball or this Jack Daniels. Here it comes. Yeah. So, oh my gosh, what's the sad face for? Why'd you go like this? Why'd you do that, Tanya? I know there's a delay in this, so try to wait for a second to see. Oh, you're drooling? Oh God. I can't put the drool there. That's just too nasty. But yeah, I get it now. Okay, so ready? You're going to take a little bit of this. And why we're adding this, okay, is because when you're pairing, you're thinking about the composition of the blend, right? And I already spoke to how the dominant effect in this is going to be that tingling sensation on your palate. So, and it's sweet. So we spoke of those two prominent dominant features of the sweet Tingler. So as a result, we're going to take some sweet and some tingle. This little fire mixed with a tingle. Honey. Okay, so you're now going to go above this just a little bit. Okay, so now you're at a fourth of a glass. Okay, I'm using a little bit of this, the Jack Daniels one. Okay. Then, I don't know, hopefully you'll be able to see the color in there. The freaking green. Yeah. There you go. It's prettier on my side. I'm sorry, but it'll be darker at the base there. Sorry, I might have to make myself extra bright. All right. So, is that better? Can you see that better now? All right. So there's the green. Okay. And we're just going to start transitioning colors now. Okay. I did that one, right? Okay. So take some Larceny. Okay. Larceny bourbon, right? Okay. And then you add that in there. And you just want to pour down the side of the glass. You don't want to. All right. Now we're at about half glass. Okay. Not quite, just under half glass. So you can see the colors? Oh God, I hate this thing. It's just, this camera sucks there. Okay, a little bit better. Okay, it's just that there's so much color refracting around, bouncing around. All right, so next, right, we are going to take one of my favorite liqueurs. You know I'm a liqueur fan, okay? So this is your Beringer, yeah? You can see it's almost gone. It's really, really nice. It has honey, okay? So this is all natural honey liqueur, okay? All natural. See, that's why it looks like a beehive. You might be familiar with it. So then we're going to get it to officially half, if not just above. Yes. See the rolling thunder. Yes. All right. Now, that has floated to the bottom to give rise to the green. Let's see if I can get you a little bit closer on that. You see there? See our transitions in there? Yeah? Let's see. There you go. There. All right. See that? Now you have that floating in there. And then you want to take your Black Label, your Johnnie Walker, and put that on top. Okay? So here we go. All righty there. Now we have a beautiful tri-colored Tingler pairing. I gotta find a white paper. Here it is. Because I just don't think it shows up very well unless I put something white behind it. There we go. See that there? You see that better? Yeah. See, I'm catching on how to show you guys this stuff. Much better, right? So that's what it should look like. Okay? Now, if you're brave, unlike myself, you're a broad bitch, you know. I might be broad, but I'm not that bold. As to just take it back, knock it back, you're good to go. Okay? But I like to pair and sip and pair and sip and pair. It's a soothing thing for me. I like to exchange those flavors and see what the Tingler does to the drink as I'm going through. So that's all of the beverages you need, or all of the mix that you need. Okay, so you need your creme de menthe, and you can put it in a different stage. It's just fun to see it rise up and float. You need your Jack Daniels or some Sin Fire, or Fire Hot, right? And then your Larceny bourbon and your honey liqueur, Beringer, or one of your choice, and your Scotch whiskey. You need that Johnnie Walker, okay? It just adds that peatiness in there, a little bit of peatiness. So I'm going to clip this, and then we're going to taste it all together. Now a little toasting, and I have a hoof cut here. See the hoof cut against my skin? Okay. And I like the hoof cut. When you do it, you just toast it in the angle that the heat will travel up it. So, oh man, I'm almost out of juice. And as the heat travels up it, it just gives you a really even coat, a really even burn. So it just saves a little bit on your lighting process. For all those pervs out there who are always saying, could you just have a lighter that won't start? There's your little click, okay? So, all right. See that? Mm-hmm. Wow. That is so good. That is so yummy. So this was off the block. I made it a couple hours ago. You don't want to drink your beverage prior to tasting your blend because they will affect each other. So when you smoke the hoof cut, always have your hoof up until you catch up. There we go. So you hold it up at the angle like this until your hoof ash catches up to being even, and then you can turn it in any direction. So now I have had the organic experience with the leaf, and I can now taste my lovely pairing, yeah, which is still in its isolation. In fact, it's probably more isolated now than it was before. Let me see. It's had time to settle down. Not pretty? So now I will taste it. Ooh, I know this is going to be heat. Ooh, that's a smooth motherfucker. But that is what this is supposed to be. Now, the tingle that was in this is magnified. So if you're someone who likes to have your tongue be a participant in the action, okay, which is different than just tasting, okay, this is the pairing you want to have. You want to have something that makes your tongue responsive. Actually, the fibers of your tongue should be dancing and swelling and contracting and doing each one doing their own thing in response to the sweetness, the heat, the flavors, all of that. And then you add that sweetness and see, start to see that the hoof is ashing now. See? And it'll catch up. It'll catch up. So long as I don't talk too much. Now I'm going to just dip a little bit in there. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't show you that. That plays so nice. Get just a little more heat. I'm talking, talking. Wow. Just that, you know, some blends do a lot in the back of your throat. And it just depends on, you know, where you're drawing and where you allow the smoke to travel. If you allow it to hit the back of your neck, some people do. Some people put their tongue to the uvula to block it off. That's fine too. But just depending on where you let that hit, you just you get a difference in the response. Not a whole lot going on back here, but most everything is on that tongue, is just tickling that tongue. And that's what's so unique about this blend. It does need to rest, this blend, because it's got thick leaves in there. So anyways, this is a combination of Honduran, Brazilian, Indonesian. That's because I let that hit the back of my throat. Hold on. I hit the back of my throat too. Oh, my nose is running. A little bit of Dominican and well, you know, beautiful Ostero, which is really thick, but because it's so close to the wrap, it's gonna take a little bit of effort to get it to burn since it hasn't rested. So, remember we talked about how to relight? 1 out, 2 in. Long, strong jaw, and you bring it back to life, right? So just principles, right? Just principles. Good God. It's a lot because I'm trying to tell you what the proof is, okay? So this one, your Johnnie Walker Black is 40%, right? Whew, but Jesus. Your honey liqueur is 35%. And then your Larceny is 92 proof, which is 40. What is that? 49, 46%. And then, of course, you have your Fire, Cinnamon Fire, and that is also 35. So 40, is it 40? I don't know. I'm blind these days. Could be 48 proof or something. So, so lovely. So now I want to talk about the lesson for the day. Okay. But you gotta get you some though. Get you some, okay? It is good. It is good. I can't help it. It's delicious. Put them all together. It's the concoction. It's the remix that makes it so good, okay? So do that, okay? Now, I gotta focus just a little bit because the next thing I want to talk about is something that has and I'm actually going to write down some little notes to make sure that I touch base on all the important things. So we want to talk about efflorescence. We want to talk about plume. We want to talk about, all right, I'm not going to be fucking with you. I'm trying to think. We're going to talk about foot.
Mold.
A mold. Okay, these are things that are identifiably different sometimes. Okay, so we're going to talk about these important distinctions. Okay, okay, saltpeter. Okay, make sure that I put that in this. Magnesium, calcium, and oh, I guess I could also touch base on oh shit, what's that stuff called? Epsom salts, right? Salts. Okay, pretty much we're talking about salt. Okay, so whenever we're talking about what we see on a leaf, okay, I'm gonna break out a leaf that commonly has this issue, and I highly doubt that this camera is gonna pick it up. If it does, it's a fucking miracle. But we'll give it a shot. You never know. Let's see if this has some. Because you guys often see me use my magnifying glass. This is why, okay? My magnifying glass will help me. Oh, here, there is some on here. Help me to detect the difference between efflorescence and mold, okay? So let's see if the camera will pick it up at all. At all. Even if we glitter a little bit, that would be good. Can you give me even a little, oh, there, maybe just a little glitter, a little bling? No, not gonna do it, no. How about in here like this? What if I get a little closer? No? Oh, right there, let's see right there. No, not gonna do it? God, fucking sucks. I was trying to get it for you. Here, what if I stretch it? What if I stretch it over my hand like this? And then, gotta figure out how to do this, you know? There. Do you see that on there? Do you see that? Can you see that on there? Should look white and also glittery. You may be able to see it. So this is called efflorescence, okay? Now I want to talk to you about what efflorescence is. So when you are doing soil, okay, and you're planting, you want there to be a good balance in your soil of all of the nutrients that the soil needs to grow a agricultural product, let's call it that, okay? And I always start off because in my mind, I'm running back and forth between contradictory statements that I hear people teaching people and actual practical statements that are real life experience from the leaf, okay? So one of the things that I hear out there in the world is about the quality of the burn quality, and how do you check the quality of the burn by looking at the quality of the ash, and the color of the ash and all that kind of stuff. So let's just debunk that right now. And it really has nothing to do with quality and everything to do with the minerals inside the leaf that are contained inside the leaf. And how are they contained inside the leaf? They get planted into the ground, right? And just like our bodies that absorb water and nutrients, and we have to take our vitamins, you know, to make sure that we have all of the balance that we need, including the sun to get our vitamin D and all that good stuff. The same thing happens with the stalk, with the leaf, okay? And with anything. So one might say, well, the soil is richer if it has more magnesium and potassium, and or in some cases people will say potassium and calcium, and therefore the potassium and the calcium are going to give you the whiter ash, and anything with magnesium obviously is going to give you the darker ash, things like that. So here's the key thing to remember. Some things that are good for you can also kill you. I always tell my children that all the time. There are things that are good for you. Too much of a good thing can kill you too, right? Okay, it's the same thing with certain types of leaf. If you're trying to obtain certain profiles in a leaf, like sweetness, okay, or you're trying to enhance the richness of the color, you're trying to do disease prevention because your environment has certain insects that attract leaf differently than in other cultures. So all those conditions are going to determine what soil compound or what ingredients or mixture of those nutrients that goes into the soil for that seed, okay? Now you can have Dominican seed or you can have Brazilian seed planted elsewhere, even in the United States, and our conditions are very different than, say, Brazil or, say, Nicaragua or any other place where tobacco is grown. Because those conditions are different, so too must the soil be different to accommodate the conditions in which they're planted here. So if the soil, if the leaf, if you're trying to achieve a certain characteristic of that leaf, and you're trying to achieve that, that means the soil's nutrients have to be balanced with the things that will encourage the leaf to produce that, okay? Same thing with us. You eat a whole lot of a certain kind of thing, you get to maintain your curves like me, see? And other people look at that and they're like, that's bad for your health. But look, some people love this shit. You know what I'm saying? Other people, you know, can eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and never gain the weight, and they're trying to gain the weight, and it's a struggle for them. They're consuming the same nutrients, but their environment internally cannot process it the same way. Needless to say, it's going to produce something different. Okay, so when I put this away, I'm going to touch base on why misting it will actually cause that to disappear, but it'll come right back. And we'll talk about the nature of efflorescence. You might even see some floating around in here. I can actually see it floating around in here. Okay. And it's one of the leaves that I'm allergic to because of that. Okay, because of efflorescence, which is the chemical reaction to that leaf as a result of it being planted in areas where the saltpeter is used to produce a higher, more richer photosynthesis process. Okay, so the obviously that the ground that they have is deficient, right? Just like if you don't get enough sun, then your skin is going to be deficient of vitamin D. So you need to take supplements. Okay, so you get a soil that might be deficient in the salt that is in the soil. Okay, it could be potassium. It could be magnesium. Eggshells will provide the magnesium, right? There's different products that you can get out there that will provide these nutrients in the soil. So each farmer's soil composition is going to be different because they're trying to achieve something. If you want to get, you know, that extra sweetness, that, you know, that be able to make sure that the edges of your leaf don't get crusty butt and curly and all that extra, you go ahead and you add things like Epsom salt, right? And so these balances of chemicals are producing something different, but they also produce a different color ash. Now, like with remix, and you start mixing up the different varietals, okay, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about planting different varietals, okay? And when you begin mixing it up, well, if I put Dominican, or Cuban seed, you know, something that is more calcium rich, grown in a more calcium rich soil on the outside, but I put something like Brazilian or Ecuadorian, although Ecuadorians can tend to be, but Mexican San Andres, if I put those darker ones that have higher content of magnesium towards the center, well, you'll get a nice, pretty white ash on the outside as a result of those wrappers and jackets that I put on the outside. But when you ash your stick, let me see if this one will do it. Not so much. So when you ash your stick, yeah, that's more higher blend. Honduran is gonna burn white too. So when you ash your stick and you see those variations of ash tone, right? You might see all of the ash is more gray. Well, it's going to have these variations in these percentages based on the blend. Okay, if the blend is a puro blend, straight Dominican or straight Nicaraguan, straight Honduran, you're going to get the consistency of that, the nutrient profile for Honduran, for Brazilian, if it was grown in the same place, right? Now, if it was the seed that was grown here, shipped over there, processed here, came back, and all this extra, different, okay? Now, efflorescence, unlike mold, okay, because molds can be found on the leaf during the maturation germination stage, if the conditions are not taken care of, or in the fermentation process. At any stage, mold can occur. Any stage, okay? Mold requires moisture, humidity, and spores to grow, okay? So when you have mold will produce a crystalline looking, appearing, but more fuzzy, okay? It's more fuzzy. I always say mold is more like cotton candy and all the different colors that cotton candy comes in. You get blue cotton candy, you get pink cotton candy, you get yellow cotton candy. Yeah, mold's like that, okay? So efflorescence will always be white, always. And it will always remind you of diamonds, okay? It will always remind you of bling, bling, bling. If you look at it right, it's going to be lightweight. It's going to be, especially because it's on agricultural. Where do you find efflorescence most commonly? Is in concrete construction, okay? You may have a home now that has cement somewhere on the side of your home, inside your garage, in your foundation somewhere. And then you come across like a white powdery substance and it's kind of crystal-like. And you're like, what is this stuff? Ooh, it's mold. No, it's not mold. It's the salt. If there's moisture present, especially if you're in humid climates, Southwest, all that kind of stuff, the South. If you're in moisture climates, you're going to find more of the presence of efflorescence, okay? Now, the saltpeter is coming out of the concrete as it's getting moist, as it's damp. The salt is like it's like an astringent. It's like coming to the surface. You know, it's like it's coming to the surface of your skin. The buildup that's underneath is like coming to the surface of your skin. Well, once the moisture is removed, salt goes back to being salt, okay? And it'll crystallize when introduced to warm water. If it's cold, it's likely not going to happen, which is why in colder zones or colder regions, you don't find this particular thing. So if you have leaf that is harvested from saltpeter based soil, in other words, they took the saltpeter and they turned it over into the soil to enrich the soil of the things that it was deficient from, okay? And these are things that make the leaves greener, and they're much greener, they are much better, they're much bigger, they grow bigger, they're more disease resistant, and it's the same for us too. We require the salt too. And that's why you'll read on your salt container, you know, this does not contain enough of your iodine or that you need for your daily nutritional intake, all that kind of stuff. It's the same for leaf, you know, and that's their food, what's in the soil, right? So where I'm going with this is efflorescence is not present at the plant. It is present in the process of the fermentation, okay? So every time, like go back to your garage or your side of your house where you're finding these little white patches, dusty white patches, which by the way, never wet them. If you wet them, you're basically soaking the salt back into that area. And the very next time the crystals coming back. So brush them away, okay? There are treatments as well that you can get. I'll make sure I'm not ignoring you. Okay, good. There are treatments that you can get. Oof. Woo. Woo, Lord. All right. There are treatments that you can get. I just need a second. Good. God. I'm such a fucking baby. There are treatments that you can get for your concrete, things like that. You can use water resistant, barrier control paint on stuff, and that'll help prevent, the efflorescence from returning. It really is, once the efflorescence chemical reaction happens, you're back to having saltpeter again. You're back to having that. And if you're in an area where there's a lot of salt used in the wintertime like this, come spring, you're going to start seeing that, because if you're driving into your garage, you're dropping the salt deposits all into your garage, which is even more than what was already in the water that was, in the soil used to make the concrete in the first place, depending on how they made it. So the water is kind of extracting it. It's mixing, it dissolves. You know what I'm saying? So here you have salt and you put it in your pasta pot and it dissolves, right? Well, the chemicals are breaking up. They come apart. And as a result of this process happening, just like H2O, you have H, you have two O's. Uh-oh. And when you take them apart, well, you have hydrogen, you have oxygen. Now you've taken them apart. But you put them together in that formation and you have water, okay? Same thing with saltpeter, okay? If it gets warm water applied to it, hot water, the sun starts baking it and all this extra, then it brings it to the surface. It's dissolved. You don't see it then, but there it is on the surface, all transparent and clear and shit. And then the water evaporates and all this dusty shit, sometimes even looks like the pattern of the water, waves just like the water, right? That goes to show you how it elevated. And just like when you go on a beach and you see the foam pattern on the edge, when it draws back, same thing. You see the remaining deposits of salt, okay? So you don't see that on the leaf in the farm because there's not enough time and it hasn't gone through that process. But trust and believe, the roots of this plant have absorbed, eaten, consumed, because that's how they do in order to survive. Their roots are their mouth, okay? They have consumed the saltpeter. Therefore, salt exists in the plant, okay? So some have more, some have less. And in cases like Brazilian Matafina, there is much more, okay? Now, as a result of that exposure, when they are going through the fermentation process, A, it's warm, B, it's wet. Well, what does that mean? We're going to be extracting some salt, okay? Just from the natural process. So every time it dries, it leaves the residue. And then you wet it again. You rehydrate it again. And it dries and more residue. More deposits, more deposits. So different than foot, because you can find efflorescence all over the entire leaf. Yes, you'll probably find it more at the base of the leaf, more at the stalk, because that's where it's drawing in. That's the widest part of the mouth, okay? That's the widest part. And so you'll find more deposits, but traditionally, you're going to find it all the way up the center vein. So I wanted to talk about that because in addition, it can, I will say, for example, what leaf can I get? What thing can I get? If the stick were wrapped in Brazilian Matafina, okay? If the stick gets wrapped in Brazilian Matafina, I will tell you this, Brazilian Matafina is already mold sensitive. So if you get any leaf with a wrapper that is Brazilian Matafina, mind that leaf, okay? You have to mind that leaf. It is naturally mold, God, my fiber fucking sucks. The word I'm looking for is mold sensitive. God, that was so hard. It's naturally mold sensitive. Okay. So keep it dry, because the more moisture and darkness you add to it, the more likely that leaf will mold. Okay. So the other thing that it has, though, is efflorescence. So when you start to see that kind of crystalline form, that's not mold. Okay. And the probability that it will eventually form is really, really high. So if it's on a wrapper, it's really high that you're probably going to see the return of efflorescence on any stick or any blend that has, this is Indonesian Bouzouki. So I'm not specifically talking about this wrapper, but anyone that does have a Brazilian Matafina wrapper, there can be that confusion. So cotton candy, efflorescence, okay? Efflorescence is salt deposit, okay? Which comes naturally each time the stick is recased or rehydrated. And so when I hold it here and I'm, nursing it and babysitting it, once it returns, I wipe it off before shipping. But so long as it doesn't get re-wet, because that's the whole thing with efflorescence. If you wet it, you're just pushing the salt back inside. You open the pores and the pores go, salt, and it just take it all back in, right? But then eventually, do that evaporation process, as it's resting, that salt presses back out and you see crystals, beautiful little crystals. That's not mold. White diamonds. Think of that. Think of like little strands, little crystally strands of salt. I don't know if you've ever boiled a pot of pasta water down too low and you forgot about it and you didn't put the pasta in. And I've cooked for 26 years. I've done it a few times. But there'll be like a residue left in the pot, like white crystals. Yeah, that's salt deposit. Okay, because it's in the water. Okay, so just remember that not everything white is mold. Okay, not everything white is mold. So very good key to remember. Foot plume. Whew. Plume is similar to efflorescence, but the strands are very small. I would say plume, in the grossest sense, is like whiteheads on your nose or your chin or your forehead or any oily spot on your body. Okay, where you just get these like little, like if you get really close in the mirror and you're like, what's that? You squeeze a little, or okay, I'm being gross, but I'm just saying, plume is the release of oils on the stick as the stick is aging. Okay, so if you get a leaf that's like Pennsylvania Oscuro or Maduro, you get those thick, rich leaves, they have great big pores. And camera sucks because I can't show you these great big pores. So they have really big, and Maduro is another leaf where you can find efflorescence, depending on where it was grown. Oh gosh, I can't even show you, but there's just a marked difference between the pores here and what am I touching? What am I touching over here? Go away. There's a marked difference between the pores here and the pores in, say, an Indonesian shade wrapper, for example, which you really can't see much of anything. But in the Connecticut shade, sometimes that's kind of like the medium where you can see the pores, but not like here, where the Indonesian, or Ecuadorian shade wrapper, you really can't see the pores very well at all. So there's just not a lot of oil content in those pores. But as it ages and as it's, sitting and resting and, expanding and contracting and doing all that kind of stuff, then those pores are like bursting and they're just releasing these little, plumes. Plumes, okay? So foot, okay? Foot is what you find before the burst, okay? So when you say someone says, oh, there's foot in your ash, or there's foot, okay? Not foot like foot here. I'm talking about foot, the little tiny white dots that you see that come before the plume, okay? You'll see them all over your ash, and you're like, what is that? I know you might have seen it before. Be like, what are all those bumps on my ash has bumps? That's not a bad thing. It's nothing about the quality or anything. It just means your stick was really close to having plume. Plume is a great thing. I wouldn't say it adds any quality per se, but it just is a sign of like an orange, you know, and you know that when you can smell the bursts of citron when you squeeze the orange, or you rub the orange, or you know, anytime you start rubbing a ripe fruit like that, you can smell already. That's the oils releasing, and that aroma is telling you the fruit is ripe. Okay, so if you don't smell those aromas on your fruit when you're in the produce section, bounce, honey, bounce, because you're gonna need to take it home and put it in the window and wait a few days and try to get it to that condition yourself. So that being said, foot is going to be when you see, and you can see it at any point in the stick, not just at the foot. You can draw all the way to the final third and still be seeing foot, okay? That's perfectly fine. Those pores are just bursting under combustion, okay? So there they are, just in their position, stoned in for life. They look a little bit braille-like. That's the best example, like micro braille. Okay, so you might find like micro braille. You might have seen it. I don't know if you've seen it before, Tanya. So you probably have, because you've smoked a gazillion sticks in your lifetime. Epsom salt is another one of those things that is added to the soil. Whew. Good. God. I forgot when I picked it up what I was dealing with. Woo. Anyways, Epsom salt, when used in soil fertilization process, the soil's fertilization process will really add, encourage the leaf to add that element of sweetness. So if you get a leaf that has, oh, you say, oh, it's naturally sweet. Well, it's naturally sweet because it has the right nutrients in there to give the plant that sweetness. And it's not it that's doing it. It's not the sodium or the magnesium that's doing it. It's the chemical reaction with the photosynthesis process that is doing it. So as it's receiving sun and it's creating sugar inside of itself, right? And it's processing all those chemicals. It's just naturally doing that. So keep that in mind, that the leaf itself, the seed itself, isn't necessarily, and the seed itself, if planted in Epsom salt, will actually deshell faster. You'll germinate your seeds much faster in Epsom salt. So those are, whew, did I feel like I laid it on you?
Did you tell them that they use the Epsom salt to fertilize the leaf? That's how it gets in there?
Yeah. Oh. He wanted to make sure I told you everything. But I did. Calcium, we talked about calcium. You know, calcium's like bones. Like, we need calcium to make us strong too, right? Well, the calcium also makes the stalk of the plant strong. It also adds a certain element of, and I hate to use the word richness, because I'm then kind of validating some people who are believing that it's a higher grade. It's not a higher grade. It's just a different result. Gosh, how do I explain that other than richness? When I say richness, all chocolate can, okay, most chocolate can be good, like Belgian chocolate, right? And then you have Godiva, okay? And then you have Belgian chocolate, and then you have Godiva, and then you have Hershey's, you know, for s'mores Hershey's, and then you have Belgian chocolate, Okay, so it's a certain richness that's not necessarily saying that it's any worse. It's just sometimes you want a little more, you know, you want a little extra. And that's what it is. It's a little extra. Okay. And some people don't like that. Some people just give it to me plain. I just want it plain. You know, I don't want a whole lot of extra. I don't want a whole lot of fancy. I just like a plain old flavor. Just give me the tobacco straight. Okay. Well, then those people like Hershey's or Godiva. And then others like Belgian chocolate. Okay. So
you tell them how to recognize it in a retail humidor.
How to recognize what?
Recognize it when they go into a retail humidor. How to recognize the effervescence between mold and effervescence.
Oh, yes, yes.
Retail humidor.
Well, any retail humidor, like the biggest thing you remember, whether you go into a retail humidor or somebody offers you a blend from their own stash or whatever, is what you are looking for is those color variations, the cotton candy look versus the crystal look, okay? Now, I really wish, I'm going to post on my Instagram some pictures because I have some great photos of efflorescence. So I will post some close-up shots of the efflorescence so you can see, and this is something you can see with the naked eye. You just can't see it on this Logitech, but it's something you can see with the naked eye if your eye is better than mine and you don't have to use this all the time. But I do because I strain a lot with doing designer detail and stuff. And so by the time I'm refocusing, sometimes my focus is off, especially when I have a fiber flare up, my vision's more blurred. So quicker look helps me see that I'm dealing with efflorescence. But because some leaves are more temperamental, I check them often. I just check them all the time because some are more susceptible. I think that was the word I was looking for before. More susceptible or more prone to developing mold than other leaves. So, you know, it's all a timing thing. It's all a measure and gauge process as you're building your blends and as you're even just in here prepping and casing your leaf. So I made my notes and I think I went through all the things on my notes. I want to share something personal. I might have already, but I want to share something personal. Today's toast, I didn't toast, but I'm going to make this toast to my sister Heather today. It is her birthday. Hear, hear. My beautiful sister Heather, up in the sky somewhere, or wherever she is in the universe, whatever happens to us after, whether we travel on or whatever it is you believe. She was 7 and I was 6 when she passed away. And she did not survive our childhood maltreatment and abuse circumstances, which were many. So to Heather. Okay. And today, this month is Childhood Maltreatment and Neglect Awareness Month. It is also Sexual Abuse Awareness Month. So I hope that you are growing beyond awareness because we have been beating this dead horse for, you know, several decades now. So maybe by now we have moved on and grown beyond awareness into action, you know, being proactive and doing things towards intervention and doing things towards prevention. Intervention is prevention. Education, all that good stuff, right? Because then we save lives. And my sister would be here today. And she was an amazing singer. Man, that girl could blow. Okay. And she was protective and she was beautiful and she loved yellow and I loved pink. And my very challenged mom used to dress us like twins. And we were close enough to be twins because her birthday is today and mine is on the 14th. So she would have been 46. She would have been 47 because I will be 46. So there's that. I do miss her. So to Heather. Yeah. So today I feel like since she was yellow and I was pink, I did gold for her because it's the matured color. You know, we're both like in our wisdom states now. So I did gold for her and I'm sure that I would have been burgundy rose because I am. But pink used to be my favorite color. I used to wear pink all the time. So good God. What a drink I have. Woo-wee. That'll play with your tongue a little bit right there now. All right, so let's see what time it is. Because I know I was late in live. I have just a few minutes. Oh, happy birthday, Heather. Thank you. Oh, my amazing Heather. I wish I had a picture. I should have had a picture. But she's online somewhere. I had a memorial thing for her. And in 2008, I pushed 825 pounds, 250 miles, 1,000-foot climb in 115 to 120 degree weather for her. Okay, for her life, and as a symbol that you can grow beyond the trauma that you've experienced in your life. You just have to push on. Every day is a day in your life, a journey, a step closer to your purpose, which is you. Okay. Let me not get on that soapbox. I will refrain from that and stick to the leaf. Okay. So that's my PSA for the day.
That's a good soapbox.
Oh, is it a good soapbox? Thanks, babe. So I'm going to relight. And yeah, unfortunately, I just made this a couple of hours ago, and that Oscuro is a beast with moisture. So these really do need to take a week or two or 4 to really relax. And then they're just as fantastic as they are off the block. Mm-hmm. So, I gotta leave that alone. Oh my God. I gotta leave that alone. Oh, any questions? Oh, thank you. Yeah, I wore this in her honor today. So I like it. I like to wear my color and her color because I feel like she's always with me. One of my sons, who actually looks a lot like her, he has her tatted on his arm and me tatted on the other. So I just, we sacrificed a lot when they were growing up to kind of incorporate her existence as a child into our present life, to give her passing significance. The way she passed was not what you would want for anyone. So, we tried to keep her memory alive, and I often walked in her steps for a long time. So that being said, even though they've never met her and they were robbed of that, they have learned who she is and kind of experienced her through our dedication to her life. And I have some other siblings too, and I pray for my brother who's sitting down right now. And, people journey through these traumas, and some people find therapeutic outlets, and others, it takes a while for them to find that place. So he's just taking a little longer for my brother. Anyway, Tanya, you need to go get you some of this. I know it's a lot. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Okay. Well, who didn't get some of it? It's a lot, but it is so worth it. Whew. If there's any questions, please. Oh, good. She said, I knew about the plume and the mold, but the other information was great to learn about today. Oh, great. See? I'm so glad that I don't feel like I'm just talking and there's, no fruitfulness to this tree, Shoot. These old bones might serve a purpose before they go to the ground. Shit. All right. So next week, I will bring you more details. Ooh, and my big announcement. I might even get on here early. Okay. Next week to make my big announcement. I'm so excited. Yo, what's meant for you in this life, it appears. You don't stop searching, whether it's a loved one, whether it is, romance. whatever it is that you desire, you pursue it. You know, some people say you yield and you surrender. There's a time for yielding and there's a time for surrendering, right? Just like there's a time for justifiable anger. There's a time to be moved politically or moved justifiably, right? And then there are other times where it's more of a discovery process. You know, life is discovery and recovery, and you just keep pursuing your passion, whatever that is for you. And here, by pursuing one thing, we added to the vision, which is going to be great. Great news about that. By crossing paths with people we never would have crossed had we not pursued the vision to Minnesota. And then on our way back, had we not tracked back the way that we did, we would not have found a little something else. So anyways, next week, yes? To life. Long leaf life to y'all. We'll see you next week on Roll Call 10.